All right, so patient engagement was one of the major themes at HIMSS, and I think we can all agree that it is critically important and it is ultimately the goal of the Meaningful Use program for us to provide meaningful use of the clinical data that belongs to the patient back to those patients and their caregivers as well as their healthcare providers. I think that what's missing from the patient engagement equation right now is the patient. So patient engagement are these massive software platforms and really cool innovative devices that we're seeing in the marketplace that may or may not have any direct correlation to something that is meaningful for the average patient to use. I'm not the average patient, and if you're looking at this video, it is likely that you are not the average patient either. I download all of my own data. I have it all in stored and codified format. I've got no issues running my own analytics to determine, what my weight is from year to year, although who knows, I don't want to look at that. What my likelihood of risk patterns might be for particular illnesses. I'm fascinated by that stuff. But I'm a geek. I'm a data geek, and I'm not your average patient. So your average patient, particularly in the Medicare space, because let's face it, when we're talking about meaningful use, we're talking about getting incentive dollars for patients who are in the Medicare space over the age of 65, or potentially Medicaid, so you have the poorest of the population who are not likely to have access to a computer to do all of these actions that we're talking about when it comes to leveraging health information technology. So we're incentivizing populations that aren't necessarily representative of the greater American public, and yet we're also not providing them with any tools that might make these new progressive measures meaningful to them. So the progress that we're making for patient engagement, I think, is incremental. I think that definitely we're laying the technology foundation for this, but we're not bridging the gap between the technical building blocks and the necessary user experience. So I know that the user experience was another huge theme at HIMSS this year, but we're still missing the boat. We're not able to incorporate all of these elements successfully yet, and it's going to take us a significant amount of time, but in the meantime we are forced to release all of these kind of beta software platforms in order to meet arbitrary deadlines that are not going to be engaging patients in a meaningful way at all. As a matter of fact, by engaging patients with providing them clinical confusing data, we are going to be putting more of a burden on providers to answer and respond to the patient's questions about that confusing clinical data, which may or may not be accurate, because like Dr. Mustashari said, you want to release all data, right? We're going to release all labs because CMS was very clear on that FAQ that you have to release all information if it's available to you. And we are heading down a path right now in the interim that I believe is going to be very frustrating both for patients as well as for providers. So I think as we move from 2014 into 2015, until the technology matures and until we have a standard language and kind of a contextual language to discuss this information with patients, we are going to continue to see issues around patient engagement, and that patient engagement is going to continue right now to be a buzzword and is not going to be a true indicator for a patient being empowered through ownership and comprehension of the information that's available to them. So anyway, just more thoughts from me post-HIMSS.